Tony DeWitt here, Missouri appellate attorney and a guy who likes to make the law make sense on YouTube. Today we're going to follow up on that Las Vegas smoke shop case in a little bit of a different way. I'll have more on that in just a moment. So many of you who commented on the Las Vegas smoke shop case were interested in not seeing this gentleman prosecuted. And I understand that. I understand the point of view that, these were bad kids and doing bad things and they deserved what they got. It's not the way the law works, but it could very well be that the district attorney there is exercising prosecutorial discretion and not bringing charges. And again, that's why we elect prosecutors, and that's why they are accountable to the public. Because if they make decisions that are good decisions, people tend to re-elect them. And if they make decisions that are bad decisions, people don't tend to re-elect them. So that is an important thing to discuss up front, because I may have been wrong. I may have been wrong about what the likely outcome would be. I wasn't wrong about what the law is, but I might be wrong about what the actual outcome for the owner is. Now, let's talk for a moment about a different situation.
This morning, we are working to learn more about a deadly attempted robbery in Clay County near Cheaha State Park.
There is a national forest in Alabama near Cheaha State Park. It's at the end of the Appalachian Mountain Range, and it's very heavily wooded. There are a lot of National Forest Service roads in there, and it's a really nice place to go hiking, particularly in the summer when it's hot, because obviously with that canopy of trees, there's a lot of shade. It can be very beautiful up there, and lots of people go up there to go hiking. Also, because there's a national forest here and a state park, those are two sites where ham radio operators go to do parks on the air activations. I myself do parks on the air activations. It's where we go out to a park, we set up our antennas, and we make contacts all over the world. It's a great hobby and a lot of fun, and I enjoy doing that. But every time I go to a state park, at least in Alabama and Florida, I go armed. And the reason I go armed is because the four-legged critters in the park don't worry me. They are going to stay away from humans. It's the two-legged critters that I worry about. And that's the story I want to tell you today. A young couple from Florida, two college students who came up from the University of Central Florida, went hiking up there. And they're driving through the roads on the National Forest Service highways. And as they're driving through these roads, they see a car with its hood up. And as a result of having its hood up, they stop. And they ask the lady who is standing next to it, "What's wrong?" "Well, I can't get my car started." "Well, let me see if we can help you." The young lady who is with her boyfriend calls her father and says, "I've got this car here that won't start. What can you tell me to help me get this car started for this lady?" So her father worked through a few troubleshooting issues, and at the end of the time, they could not get the car started. But that's okay, because that was never the goal. When they told the woman, "Look, we can't do anymore, we're going to go on our way," she said, "Not so fast." And she pulled out a gun, marched them into the woods, and told them to drop their cell phones and keep walking. And she had a gun. When she was distracted, apparently by picking up a cell phone or whatever, the young man drew his weapon and ordered her to drop the gun. Now, I talked a little bit earlier about an imminent deadly threat. A gun pointed at you, whether you know it's loaded or it's not loaded, is an imminent deadly threat. You have absolutely no duty to warn in Alabama and Florida anyway. You might have a duty to run if you are in some of the northern states that have the duty to retreat codified in their law. But he didn't have that here, and instead he ordered the woman to drop the gun and get on the ground. She responded to that invitation by shooting him. Well, he fired back. He injured her very severely. They had to life flight her out, but unfortunately the gentleman died at the scene. He hemorrhaged to death. He didn't have a first aid kit on him, and although the young lady packed her shirt into the wound, it was not enough to stop the bleeding and stop the hemorrhage and save his life. And I'm sure that's very distressing to her. But I wanted to make a point that I think needs to be made about this imminent deadly threat. You do not want to negotiate with someone who has a gun pointed at you. You don't want to negotiate with someone who has a knife coming at you. You do not want to assume that someone who is engaged in an imminent deadly encounter with you can be reasoned with, because in many cases they cannot be. And simply pointing a gun at them and telling them to drop the gun, that's not going to work. You're not a police officer. You don't have to arrest them. You don't have to take them into custody. You can defend yourself in that situation, at least in most states. Now, the law in many states is different, particularly in Massachusetts. They have a duty to retreat. You have to run away first before you can defend yourself, which I think is a good reason never to visit Massachusetts. But I digress. At any rate, the long and short of it is you don't ever negotiate with evil. Evil is evil. And the only way you profit from dealing with that kind of situation is to deal with it immediately as an imminent deadly threat and prevent that threat from harming you. And the way you do that is, unfortunately, you have to shoot and wound the attacker in such a way that they cannot shoot you back. So, hopefully that clears things up about the imminent deadly threat. I feel very badly for the couple and for the young man who lost his life and the young woman who's going to be scarred for life by that encounter. I wish that it hadn't happened that way, but it teaches us a very valuable lesson about what is an imminent deadly threat and what to do in that situation. You do not have to negotiate. You don't have to warn. You just have to deal with it. Again, that applies in most southern states. It may not necessarily apply north of the Mason-Dixon line, New York, Illinois, Maryland, Massachusetts, places like that. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. And if you haven't already, please go over here and subscribe to our channel. And as always, I appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, do all the stuff we ask you to do if you would. And I'll catch you on here next time.